Hello, hello. Hi guys. How we doing? How we doing? How's everybody doing today? Okay, let me get set up here. I'm going live in a couple different places with a couple different families. So I want to get everybody all set up and ready to go. How is everyone today? Happy Thursday. Happy holiday weekend. What are you guys planning to do for the weekend? Anything exciting? Anything fun? I think that we are gonna go like do a little bit of kayaking tomorrow up in the mountains. So that'll be really fun. But yeah, my name is Amy Titus. I'm an intuitive and psychic development coach. And I help people to lean into develop their intuitive and psychic gifts and then lean into their multidimensionality. And what that really means is just honoring yourself as a multidimensional being, right? Most of us were not taught from a super young age in a pervasive way that we are not just our physical body. Like, yes, a lot of us in this in the Western world, we're taught that we have a soul, and as it relates to religion, but most of us were not taught what that really means and how to engage with that on a practical level, on a daily level. And so that's what I help people do, because when we leave that aspect of ourselves on the table, when we don't lean into that, when we ignore that larger part of ourselves, we're missing out on so much information, so much context, so much perspective. And so when we can really start to focus on that, and how it affects our everyday life and just honoring it as a huge part of who we are, our lives can fundamentally change and for the better, because it's like we're getting a new sense on board. Like imagine if we, they call it a sixth sense for a reason, right? So it's like imagine if you were a new sense just came online that you had never had before, and it allowed you to experience life in a completely different way. That's what we're talking about. And so many times it's so funny because I feel like there's a disconnect for people when it comes to like, okay, sure, this is cool, this is fun, like this is kind of a little spiritual hobby I'll do on the side, versus no, this is a primary engine that runs my life. And once you kind of cross over into that, it's amazing what you can create, because you have access to infinite intelligence, you have a broader perspective, you have um, smooth communication with your highest self. So you're no longer walking around throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to figure out what you need to do. The information is there and it's available to you. The question is, how fine tuned is your instrument for receiving and transmitting this information? Okay. So that's what I help people do. Right now, I'm super excited. I have a high frequency tea community that I'm loving. I had that I am operating, and it is for women who are wanting to grow and develop their intuitive and psychic gifts. And it's really special because this is not a place where we like learn a ton. We don't get into like, the step by step, but what it is a meeting place for women to come to talk about what their experiences are. Over the last several months, I mean 2026 alone, the energies have been so intense, and there's been so much going on galactically, planetarily, on the micro level with just our own soul matrix. Things have been expanding at such a huge rate. And so having a place where we as women can go and talk about the experiences that we're having and being like, yeah, this happened to me. I had this vision. I had this vision. This download came in, and then just being able to like jump back and forth and explain ourselves. It is so phenomenal because most people don't have that. They don't have a collective group of, 20 people where it's like we're all experiencing different things, but they all have a similar thread when it comes to our multidimensionality. So that's my high frequency tea community. The great thing about that is that the first month is free. And then after that, it's just $29 a month. We do live sessions, we get together, we do courses and challenges and awareness tune-ins, and it's just really phenomenal. It's really, really fun. Hi, Jasper. How are you over on YouTube? How's your morning going? Today, we're talking about soul origins, a great awakening, and just all things multidimensional. Whenever I get on live, I always just I have my little set things that I want to talk about because I'm a Capricorn rising, but I just let the conversation flow to wherever it wants to and build however it wants to, because at the end of the day, I'm here for you guys. If you have questions on your hearts or your minds or your soul where you want to ask about what it means to be a multidimensional being, what it means to start leaning into your intuitive and psychic gifts, just jump in the chat and ask me. I am more than happy to get into that with y'all. Okay, let me see. All right, so today we're going to talk about soul origins, and this is an interesting conversation for a lot of people. Hi, Big Anisha, how are you, honey? Thank you for the gift. How's your week going? Do you have anything planned for the holiday weekend? So we're going to be talking about soul origins, and this is something that I love to talk about because it's like you either do or you don't. There's like a little time. There's not very much in the middle. Like, do you believe that our souls that there are other planets and species and civilizations outside of Earth? Yes or no? And then do you believe that our soul can reincarnate amongst the different species and civilizations, right? So it's like, this is a niche conversation, but let's get into it. From my studies and my interactions, my download, my channels, the information that I have been privy to, I absolutely believe that. I often have communication with multidimensional extraterrestrial beings and species and civilizations. So this is just like a common day place for me personally. And what it means like your soul origin, like what does that mean? When your soul comes together, and there are different fractals and fractions of a soul, right? We have an oversoul, we have an individuated soul. But when your soul comes into being, it is created in a way that resonates with a specific civilization, a specific group, a specific species, okay? And that's not predetermined. It's literally like, okay, this is how the soul forms based on what's needed at that time. Because remember, source, God force is always seeking balance. So every time that a soul is created, it's wanting to create balance within the universe, within our multiverse, within the universe. So when a soul incarnates, it may not always incarnate on Earth. If you believe that there are extraterrestrial civilizations other than Earth, and you believe that there are multidimensional beings other than the human experience, then it's like it leads that, okay, so just because a soul is incarnating and creating for the time, that doesn't mean that it's going to incarnate on Earth, right? So depending on how your soul matrix is created, it's going to be at a frequency that resonates with a specific species, a specific civilization. And this is what we get into when we do the Akashic Records reading with me. It's an Akashic Records and Soul Realignment session. And we talk about where your soul origin is. And where your soul origin is what species was resonating with your soul matrix. So you as a human being still have the same soul matrix, right? So it's like understanding what civilization, what species you incarnated with first can give you a lot of information about who you are now, the energies that you carry, the purposes that you carry. And so you can understand so much more about yourself when you understand what your soul origin is. For me, I'm a blueprinter, which they were heavily involved in seeding planet Earth and bringing more consciousness to humanity, and the building stages, like the building blocks of what Earth was going to be as this 3D matrix, this very unique place that it is. But there are so many different species and so many different civilizations. And it's really fascinating to think about, but I love talking about this because it's like you either are with it or you're not. Like you may not be with it, and that's fine. But so when we think about what our soul origin is, there's so many different places that we could be from, right? We could be from Andromeda, we could be from Alpha Centauri, Sirius, we could be from Madras, we could be from Mars, we could be from the Pleiades. Infinite, right? And those are just the ones that we have connection with, or that we understand, or that we've been told about. Because as you know, this information hasn't exactly been given to us in droves and like libraries full. I think that a lot of the information that we have about extraterrestrial beings are things from people having first encounters. Like they are the people who are having encounters with these extraterrestrial multidimensional beings, and then they're talking about it or they're writing about it. And then over time, this library forms of all these different people's experiences. And when you really start to get in and look at these different books and these different accounts, these different interviews, it's amazing how, and this is going back to like the 40s, it's amazing how much overlaps in what they're describing. And it's amazing how, like, like some guy from the 40s and like some woman in South America in 2010 are describing the same things. And both of these things are like two very obscure pieces of documentation. It's just really interesting. And for me, I've always been the kind of person that is open, right? Like I'm open to the things that I don't understand. I'm open to the things that I don't know. I don't have a lot of hard stops when it's like, oh no, that could never be possible. If I've seen it with my own eyes, if I've experienced it with my own eyes and my own being, then I'm like, absolutely know that I absolutely know that it is possible. Sorry, brain blank. I absolutely know that it's possible, that there are a lot of different things that can be, right? And so when I experience something, then it's like, okay, I believe this, like I'm on board with it. But if I haven't seen it, if I haven't experienced it, I leave that open within myself so that I am not locked in by what somebody else told me or somebody else expects me to believe based on what their beliefs are, right? Because at the end of the day, when we think about what our beliefs are, they come down, they're passed down from our parents, from our ancestors, from society at large, from the collective consciousness. And there are guardrails on that, on what we can experience, what we can believe. And so that shapes who we are. But then we have to actually look at our society and look at the collective and be like, is this the energy that I want shaping my mind and my experience? And I think that if you really look at it, it's like, no, I don't. And I think it's so very interesting because, we were taught for so long, aliens didn't exist, extraterrestrials didn't exist. This is for crazy people. This is for tin hat people. And then slowly but surely information is coming out from the government, no less, that's like, yes, this is possible. The same thing about teleportation, the same thing about being telepathic, telekinesis. All of these documentations are coming, remote viewing, all of these things are coming out. And it's like, oh yeah, this is something that the CIA has been working with since the 40s or like whatever. And so now we're having to adjust our worldview, all because we took what people were saying at face value as the absolute truth, rather than being like, well, there might be something to this other experience. And, I'm not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no until I personally have some kind of proof within myself that I can rely on. I think this really also comes down to self-trust. When you're in a civilization or when you're in a collective that doesn't believe in self-trust, then and trusting yourself, then and we're taught actively not to trust ourselves. We're taught actively to abdicate our authority and to abdicate our way of thinking, our ability to think, to somebody else. And then they flip the script and say, oh, just kidding, this is real. What does that do for us? How does that make us feel? And then what is the larger message around trusting yourself and your own experiences and opening your mind to what's possible versus let me just abdicate my authority, abdicate my decision-making process, abdicate my knowing, abdicate my understanding to somebody else. Let me know how this is resonating with you. Let me know if you've experienced this and how there's so much coming out around what is possible when we think about multidimensionality, when it comes to timelines, quantum shifts, when it comes to extraterrestrials, when it comes to multidimensional beings. I had a comment over on YouTube that was like, Bible believing Christians understand that extraterrestrials are demons in disguise. And it's like, I'm not saying that I'm not going to speak on what that was, right? But I'm not going to speak on like that exactly, but like, what is that mindset, right? And this belief, our beliefs create our reality. And so are we actively choosing our beliefs or are we following what somebody else said because we're afraid of something else? And yeah, that's not a topic that I particularly want to get into, but let's keep talking about next Days of Future Past 2046. Now, what does 2046 mean to you, Days of Future Past? Thank you. I believe that I 1000% believe extraterrestrials are real, extra dimensional beings are real, Days of Future Past. I have communication with them and have for a very long time. Because I've been, psychic intuitive most of my life on some level. And then after some things, my extra dimensional ability opened up, my gifts opened up, and I was able to see beyond the veil. And then I was having a lot of experiences around spirit guides, angels, extraterrestrial beings, multidimensional beings, like all of these things. And it took a long time. Well, it didn't really take a long time for me to get on board with it because it's something that I understood as a part of the human experience to some degree. I just didn't know how it was going to work with me. And so a lot of people have this experience where they have multidimensional experiences. They are seeing beyond the veil, but they decide that they're going to shut it down because they're afraid of what it means about them, what it means about life. They're afraid of the information that's going to come through. We are trained and brainwashed into believing that things that we initially don't understand, we have to be afraid of. And it's part of humanity that it's the chains on humanity that are starting to fall away. But at the end of the day, they're still very much there for a large part of the population, which is why it's so important for us to have these kinds of conversations where people are hearing a different perspective and a different point of view. And then I'd love for people to get in the chat and tell me their experiences about what's going on for them when it comes to just reconciling what we've been told is real versus in the past with what they are now saying is real when it comes to extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial beings, what our experiences, the nature of reality, timelines, like all these things. Because we have to reconcile it within ourselves, because if they once told us that this wasn't real, okay, and that this didn't exist, and that if you thought it did, then you were crazy. And now they're coming out and saying, actually, we've known since the 40s that this is real. Gotcha. Gotcha. Then, like, what does that mean for our ability to trust what's going on? And right now, because of everything that is continuously happening, we're intentionally being barraged with so much to where we're falling into cognizant dissonance. We're falling into apathy. Some people are. And so it's like we're being fed all this information on purpose so that we almost get to this point of overload so that we can't really see. We've emotionally and mentally disconnected. And so it's like, and I think that's intentional, right? Because they can feed us this information, but if we don't do anything with it, if we don't integrate it, if we don't process it, if we're not using it to inform our decisions moving forward, then that's not on them. Days of Future Past 2026 over on YouTube, my YouTube family, they say my username means the days of the future that are stuck in the past. Days of the future that are stuck in the past, and also is a reference from a movie, X-Men Days of Future Past, and 2046 are the decades of the upcoming future. So interesting. I wish you did calls or Discord. I don't know if you I don't know if you're a woman or not, but if you are, I do have a community. It's called High Frequency Tea Community. And it is in my bio. If you want to go to the link, the first month is free. And this is the kind of stuff that we talk about. We talk about multidimensionality, and we're in there. Okay, good. And we're in there and we're talking about our experiences on a daily basis, different psychic experiences that we're having, multidimensional experiences, what it's like to communicate with our guides, like on the regular. We have lives a couple times a month where we get on Zoom and just talk. We just had one on Tuesday. It was phenomenal. It was activating. Like, we all left in tears because of that kind of conversation. When it comes to heart-centered people who are multidimensional and like consciously multidimensional, it has the power to heal on a completely different level. It has the power to activate different channels and doorways in your brain. And it helps your psychic, intuitive, multidimensional gifts to come online faster, because, like attracts like. And when y'all come together and like lean in, it opens up a part of you, because at the end of the day, our nervous system is controlling our human experience. And when we don't feel safe, it shuts down our ability to expand. So when we're inside of a community, inside of a space that is so safe and so expansive, and we're able to do that, and the nervous system regulates, and in that space, you're able to go leaps and bounds in your own expansion. So if this sounds good to you, I'm like, dang, that was a good little commercial. If this sounds good to you, definitely check it out in my bio and join us. Like I said, it's a whole, the whole first month is free. And yeah, Days of Future Past 2046 says, I don't believe in the healing or spiritual side of things, since we're just dust under the universe's nails. That's very interesting. So you don't believe in healing, even though the human body heals, and you don't believe of the spiritual side of things, being like, you don't believe that we are spiritual beings, but you do believe that we're multidimensional beings, but not spiritual. For me, spiritual, this term spiritual is just the name that people give something that they don't understand. At the end of the day, everything is energy. It's not they're not these two different worlds, right? Like spiritual is really just a name that people give to things that are too complex or too small for them to understand under the lens of the current under the current scientific structure that we have. And so for me, spiritual and physical are made of the exact same energy. That's what we talk about within the group. The vessel heals, not our souls. Right. And the vessel is not just what we can touch with our hands. We're multidimensional. So we have a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual body. And that is a part of the vessel. No, I get it. I definitely get what you're saying. Because when you grow up in a westernized area where things are predominantly Abrahamic in religion, the word spiritual, we actually just talked about this the other day in the live. I was like, I don't like the word spiritual because people associate it with religion, Christianity, Abrahamic religions, as if it's something, this like thing out there that isn't connected to our physical experience. And really, it's the exact same thing. And honestly, that's what science is showing when we show like energy healing, when we show vibrational sound healing, all of these things that are very tactile, very physical, and they're showing how effective these things are. At a certain point in the really recent past, sound healing was seen as spiritual and woo-woo, and energy healing was seen as like, oh, this is, this is woo-woo, this isn't real, this isn't all that. And now, just like with the extraterrestrial situation, they're like, oh, just kidding. This is totally valid. Like, this is real. It's like, yeah, because all of these things are made of the same energy at the base. Days of Future Past 2046 says, you have to understand the Earth is a pale mole and we are the ants walking around it, and the universe is a mansion we can afford. So I would love to hear about you when you think about the structure of extraterrestrial species and civilizations and the interaction that they've had with Earth and have with Earth. What does that look like in your understanding and your mythology? What does that look like? I would love to hear. Okay, let me go over here to Instagram, see what people are talking about in the chat. Same thing over here. Okay. And these, like I said, these conversations are really important because we don't get to have them everywhere. And even on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, we have to be careful about what we're saying, which is why I do have my high frequency tea community, because that's a place that we can go and really get deep, talk about whatever we want, say whatever we want, and not have to worry about being censored. Hi, Pacific Tree Frog. How are you today, girl? Are you excited for the holiday weekend? What have you been up to today? We're having a really good conversation about extraterrestrials, and the language that we use. And we talked about this in the live that we had on Tuesday, but the language that we use around spirituality versus like science. And for me, where I'm at, it's like I hate that I use the word spiritual a lot when what I really just mean is energy. And that's why I've kind of switched my language over to multidimensional. Because that I often bump up against, even within my own self, like spirituality and the connotation of the Abrahamic Bible or religion or things like that. And that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about spirituality as a whole. Okay, so we were talking about soul origins, and we were talking about how when your soul incarnates when your soul matrix is established for the first time and incarnates at a specific civilization, depending on how your soul is put together. And so when we do an Akashic Records reading, that information is very prevalent as to like where your soul incarnated first. But then we have to understand that the soul is so nuanced and so complex. It's not just like, oh, a soul came into fruition. Souls are built out from a oversoul, and it's just like everything else in nature that grows, like it's an extension of a larger part. Okay. And so when this soul comes into creation, grows into creation, the soul matrix is formed, and then when it's ready, it incarnates into a specific place. And depending on the structure of your soul matrix, that is where you are going to incarnate. So that might be like Sirius, that might be Earth, that might be the Palisades, like that, or the Pleiades, Palisades. It could be so many different places, and those are just three. Obviously, there's thousands, there's tens of thousands, there's even more than that. There's more than that can be imagined. So when we go back and we try to understand like why our soul incarnated at a specific place, it's because, and what that does for us is helps us understand who we are at an energetic level, who we are when it comes to what our proclivities are, what we are best at, what it can be shadow aspects for us. And just in the same way that it's like, okay, an elephant and a zebra are fundamentally different, right? Let's do something even more like far from each other. A penguin and an elephant are fundamentally different. Okay. And so we need to know about what the penguin needs in order to thrive so that we can put it in the correct environment, so that we can build the correct environment around it. And we need to know what the elephant does and what the elephant needs and where that needs to be and what environment we need to create around the elephant so it can thrive. So that's why these different things are so important for us to understand, because it's largely been kept from us. We have been told that, okay, the human species is the same. We're all the same. Everybody has fundamentally the same experience, which we're starting to understand that on an individual level, we are not having the same experience. And it's not just race, and it's not just gender, and it's not just where you live. Like on an individual level, two people can be twins, raised in the same household, and have have complete opposite experiences. So what is the answer to that? How do we create an environment that suits what individuals need? And it's digging down and understanding how your energy works, how your energy is formed, what your energy needs to thrive. And so there have been tools that have been passed down for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years that help us understand these things, but largely because of conditioning and religion, those things have from us or told to us that like there's something wrong with them or that they're demonic or whatever people like to tell themselves to allow themselves to feel more safe in the box that has been created for them. No shade, no tea. Pacific Tree Frog on TikTok says, just hanging out, seeing what we're chatting about. I've never thought spirituality is religion. I'm a little confused why people confuse the two, religion and spirituality. To me, they're not connected. And I think that's just conditioning. You know what I mean? I think that's just how you were raised specifically. A lot of people who are raised in the Christian church or any religious church automatically connect the two because there isn't anything outside of it, like outside of the religion that their parents chose for them, or that, as adults, they perpetuated. There is no spirituality outside of that, or else you're dealing with something dark or demonic or whatever. The only spirituality that you're allowed to have is within the context of that religion. So it's like they are very inextricably linked for a lot of people. But if you're not super, which I remember your story, if you're not were grown to if you weren't raised super religious, or you don't have that structure on you as to that extent, then you may not conflate the two. Pacific Tree Frog says, to me, religion is a belief outside of yourself people taught to you, and spirituality is a personal individual experiences. Then she said, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And I hear you, like, yeah, absolutely. Spirituality is your connection with your own spirit, right? Okay, let's see. Let's go over to YouTube, back to Days of Future Past 2046. Oh, like, because I asked her to give me her mythology on extraterrestrial beings. So let's get into it. Well, to start, they've been here light years ago, but due to biological and planetary challenges, we only happen to see their technology like UAPs, aka unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UFO, because alien biology is not suited for our atmosphere. And if they are not biologic, then they're robots of some sort. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So as people are describing, you know, what is the word that I'm trying to say? People, throughout history, throughout history, documented history, people have given their accounts of having interactions with extraterrestrials, or being taken on their ship, or them being in their room, or even more, also like more telepathic communication with them, extra dimensional communication, or whatever it might be. How do you see that within this context? Yeah, how do you see that within this context of, and what are these biological and planetary challenges that you're talking about? Pacific, thank you for joining, Pining Garcia. Thank you for joining. Thank you for liking the live. Pacific Tree Frog. Pacific Tree Frog also says, I've got alien stories. Girl, let them out. Let them out. And what do you, Days of Future Past? I'm interested. When I'm talking about soul origin and incarnate, well, I don't know how you feel about incarnation because of what you said earlier around, like, if, you know, do you believe do you believe that we incarnate more than once? Do you believe that the soul has a capacity to do that? I don't remember if you said that you don't necessarily subscribe to the idea of a soul either. I think you might have said that. Or our consciousness. Okay, I love these kind of conversations. For those of you who are just joining, my name is Amy Titus. I'm an intuitive and psychic development coach. Hello, everybody on Instagram Live, TikTok Live, and YouTube Live. Thank you for joining me. My dealio is that I help people to lean into their multidimensionality. I help people to embrace their intuitive, psychic, multidimensional gifts and be the spiritual authority in their own lives, meaning that there is no one that you have to go through or check in with or get a pass from to connect to source energy, to connect to God force energy, whatever you call it, this infinite web of intelligence that we are all living in. There's no one that you have to talk to or go through to get to that. And once you understand that, you understand more about what your piece is in this human experience, what this piece is, more about what your role is in this life, and that you are a creator being, a very powerful creator being that can really manipulate the fabric of reality. But we have to move the guardrails of our mind and our belief set so that we can tap into that. It's really about frequency. It's really about resonance. It's where are you vibrating at, and are you able to tune yourself to a place where you have access to these different doorways, that where you can open up these different connection points and start to move the fabric of reality. Okay, let's see. Days of Future Past says we incarnate, but in other dimensions or universes. Very interesting. So, in your understanding, we don't reincarnate on Earth again. We reincarnate in other dimensions or universes. I love this conversation too, because it also brings up alternate timelines, alternate realities, right? So it's like another dimension that is like Earth, that is Earth, and is a separate timeline. That's where reincarnate instead of the same timeline here. Is that what you're saying? Or obviously other, does it have to be other universes, or can it be the same universe, same galaxy, even just a different place? I love having these conversations, and I love hearing what other people's belief sets are and what your understanding and experience is. Because when we talk about this, we can broaden our own understandings. It can click something on for us, like, oh, I never thought about this. I never thought about that. This is an interesting way to look at this. And we just have to not be afraid of having the conversations in general. Days of Future Past said, oh, she's referring to what she was saying before. The atmospheric challenges they have is that aliens cannot breathe our air, right? Our gravity might either crush them or crush us. Right. Okay. So like those species specifically that cannot breathe air in the way that we can, that don't, yeah, or that can't be here because of our gravity, same way. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting too, because based on the limitations, quote unquote, that we can imagine that there are, only a certain amount of extraterrestrials can get here and we can get there just based on time space limitations and technology, just like we quote unquote don't have the technology to do certain things. Other species may or may not have that, or their technology may far supersede what we have, right? So I just I love this conversation because it just helps to expand the mind, like what we are allowing ourselves to talk about, what we are allowing ourselves to show up and discuss. It's just really important. So this brings up another conversation that is really important to me, and that's around the idea of star seeds and people who, and it really kind of is in the same vein of that soul origin, right? So we established the fact that souls can incarnate at a specific place based on their soul matrix and the frequency and vibration that their soul has. That is going to dictate where they incarnate, right? So then we can talk about star seeds, and it's like, okay, so we have the soul origin of that is from somewhere outside of Earth, and then they incarnate on Earth for a specific reason, for a specific cause, because they just want to, whatever it might be. And what experience do you guys have with star seeds? Do you feel like you are a star seed? Do you feel like that term is legitimate? Do you feel like it's not? I would love to hear. Kaden665 says hi. Hi, Kaden. How are you? How's your day going? Today we're talking about soul origins, star seeds, and really anything multidimensional. I really enjoy having this dialogue within the chat because then the conversation gets so expansive. Over at TikTok, Pacific Tree Frog says, there's so much more than just that, but that's the basic info of our experience. Which one are you talking about? Oh, and spirituality, personal, individual experiences. Gotcha. There's so much more than just that, but that's the basic info of the experience. I believe that we are all individual on different timelines, and then we get together on our timeline. Our timelines come together. I view timelines like layers. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so interesting. Like we were talking about in the live on the High Frequency T Community Live. It's like people have a lot of different ideas around like what timelines are, or like timeline shifting, but it's really just the frequency, right? And when we think about it on an individualized level, anytime that you make a shift within your beingness, like within your vibration or your frequency that holds for long enough that it clicks into your baseline state, you're shifting realities, you're shifting timelines, because the version of me that has, this specific thing that I want is fundamentally different than the version I am now, and operates in a different way, thinks in a different way, feels in a different way, expresses in a different way. And therefore, because of that point of attraction, because of that point, everything about her life most of the things about her life are different, especially the way that she experiences them. So when we talk about like, oh, we're shifting timelines, we're moving, it's really about who we are and what frequency, what vibration we are emitting, so that the rest of reality responds to that. Pacific Tree Frog says, read the message before that one about the aliens. I don't see one, boo. The only one I see is I've Got Alien Stories, LMAO, and then it was so much more than that. But that's the basic info of the experience. Did you write like a whole long thing? Oh, no, that we missed? No. Okay, Days of Future Past 2046 says, mind you, there are 42 plus alien civilizations in the universe. Don't you think that number is very small, though? Like 42 in the entire universe? That seems real small. Doesn't that feel small to you? In the span of the universe? But and then you said, but just imagine the ones hidden in other dimensions, since we have at least 11 of them. Right. So like in this dimension, 42. What I'm not familiar with the Drake equation at all. We are stardust, which is starseed. That's why I said we are stardust under the universe's fingernails. I said 42 plus. I know that's still, but don't you think it should be like 250 plus or like 1,000 plus? 42 seems low, even as like the starting point. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, I mean, if that's I believe you that that's what the Drake equation says. I'm just saying that doesn't it seem low? Let's see. Okay, Pacific Tree Frog says one locked. Oh, when she's talking. Okay, so she's Pacific Tree Frog is talking about her extraterrestrial, extra dimensional experiences. She said, one locked my kitten in a closet, and when I let her out of the closet, I saw her chase it down the hall. I watched it open a door and disappear too. Girl, this is like very real, very interesting. Very, very interesting. There's a creator on TikTok. I forget her name and it makes me so sad because I just saw her yesterday and I always like to say like where things are coming from, especially when they're coming from a creator. But she talks a lot about timeline shifts, a lot about multidimensional experience as it relates to them. And she was explaining a situation where she was in her bathroom getting ready, like putting on makeup. Her cat was sitting on her counter. She only has one cat. It has very specific markings. She goes to talk to her kid down the hallway of like her home and she sees the cat walking into her kid's room. She turns around, goes back into the bathroom, and then the cat is like still sitting on the counter. This is her experience. This is not like an account of somebody else. And I was like, oh, wow. And Nicole, I've had like a situation recently like that, or Pacific Tree Frog, sorry. I've had a situation more like, or I've had a situation recently like that where it's like, okay, this was gone for years. This thing was gone for years. And now it's back and it's literally sitting somewhere where like I look every single day and I did not put it there. So when it comes to the merging of timelines, when it comes to jumping timelines, as people like to say, or quantum shifting, timeline shifting, I think it happens way more than any of us are aware that has ever been documented. And it has for a really long time, but also because of different planetary energies that are expanding, that are revving up, and other factors as well when it comes to different scientific experiments and technologies that we are all aware, most of us are aware of, don't know the ramifications of these things that are going on. We're having just different experiences that we may not have really noticed before, been aware of before. And then also with social media and this kind of dialogue, we're really able to talk about these things and connect with people all around the world or across the city, as it relates to Pacific Tree Frog and me. And we're able to say, oh, this happened to me, that happened to you. Wow, I heard about this thing happening. Wow, now this happened to me. And so what happens in the human mind is like when you don't believe something is possible and you have no frame of reference, you're not going to see it unless it's just so blatant. And then even when it is so blatant, your mind will try to explain it away as if it didn't happen, or I must have understood, or I must have been really tired. And so when we have no frame of reference, we can't see the things that are actually happening. Now, when we do start to have these conversations and our frame of reference widens, now we're able to slot things in like, okay, this is this is that, this is this. And for me and my personal multidimensional and spiritual journey, it has been so jam-packed with those kinds of things. And it has been because I have actually been in relationship and communication with other people who are on the same vibe, even if they're just like me and they're just starting to expand, they're starting to understand what this is to be a multidimensional being and to live in that way and to operate from there and then to really use that. Even if they're on the same level as me, we can still bounce things off of each other. Or if I'm working with a coach that I really resonate with, or like I'm in a community, or I'm in like whatever it is, or just a dialogue like this for a couple of minutes, doing that is helping you feed your brain in a different way than just like watching TikTok or like watching YouTube or whatever, because it's the interaction, right? Okay. Let me go back over to YouTube. I'm so excited that you guys are spending this time with me today, guys. My name is Amy Titus. I'm an intuitive and psychic development coach, and I help people to lean into their multidimensionality. Okay. And today we're talking about starseeds. We're talking about soul origins. We're going to talk about walk-in souls here in a little bit, which is one of my favorite things to talk about because it's so, again, it's one of those topics that's very much far outside of what we are taught, what the normal human frame of reference is. Okay, let me go back over here to YouTube, to Days of Future Past. let's see. I said 42 plus. The plus stands for thousands or millions, but we start at 42 as a minimal that we can even understand and be aware of. That's interesting. 42 is like 42 names that we as humans can memorize. And even that is difficult. Girl, why I have such a hard time remembering people's names. I don't know if it's social anxiety or like what it is. I'm like, why do I have to like literally see somebody's face and say their name at least 5 times before I'm like, okay, I got it. And then even sometimes depending on where I am mentally, emotionally that day, I'm an air sign, so it's like I can get real like floaty. And sometimes it's very difficult for me. Okay, the 42 plus is like 42 names that we as humans can memorize, and even that is difficult word. It's like we, the queen bee, trying to memorize all babies' names at once, which obviously she don't. She's like, you over there, little wing, little the one with the little wing, come over here. Yes, that's so fun, and I love that analogy of like the queen bee. Yeah, and it's so interesting, and I think it's important. You know, what I said is important because it's like the number is unfathomable, especially when you layer into the dimensional aspect. Okay, so I'm so interested, Days of Future Past. What is your experience with multidimensional beings? And what, if you feel like sharing, and what is your experience with extraterrestrial beings? I would love to know because I love your frame of reference, like your perspective, because you're not the soul isn't an aspect of it for you, although you do believe in reincarnation. So with reincarnation, what is it that reincarnates from your understanding? Like, what is it that moves? Is it the consciousness? I would love to know. Okay. Pacific Tree Frog says, I see more aliens in St. George, Utah than anywhere else I've ever lived. I also want to hear, Pacific Tree Frog, when you say you see them, what do they look like for you? Where do you generally see them? Yeah, for me living here, I have 1000%, and I have had a lot of multidimensional experiences, child. Like I have, but living here in St. George, for those of you who don't know, Pacific Tree Frog and I live in the same place. We live like 15 minutes away. We met on a live. So that is the power of connection. I love that about our story. When I've had more here than anywhere else when it comes to multidimensional experiences. And extraterrestrial experiences and just connecting in with different things, for sure. I honestly think that's one of the reasons why I moved here. I have a post out right now that just talks about the fact that I got a download, a channel to move to where we live, even though we didn't know anybody out here. We'd never been out here, but it was just a very clear directive. And so I was like, okay. And it felt right. It felt good. Everything unfolded beautifully for us. It was like the red carpet was just rolled out for us to make it happen. And both me and my husband have gone through such catalytic changes here that we are in no way, shape, or form, even in the small amount of time that we've been here, which is like 5 years, in no way, shape, or form are we the same people that we were at all. Like massive identity shift, massive timeline shifts. And I honestly think it's because of the energy of this place, right? The extraterrestrial, extra dimensional activity out here. And the ancientness of the land, like the land itself holds so much energy. And so where you live has a huge effect on your multidimensional psychic intuitive gifts and your own experience. Plus, it was a huge identity shift for us to like leave our family, leave everything that we'd known for our entire life of like 30 years and just decide like we're going to go do something else. That in itself was an identity fracture, which really helped catapult everything else. Okay, Pacific Tree Frog says 100% happens way more often than people are aware. Yes, your brain actually filters information you can't comprehend scientifically speaking. And then, oh girl. Goddess, thank you. Goddess Alchemy, thank you so much for sharing the live. Thank you for being here with us. And then New Vista. Hi, New Vista. How are you? How's your day going? We're currently streaming to Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Over on YouTube, Days of Future Past says... Okay, as it relates to talking about the queen bee, we're talking about fractals of energy. We're talking about consciousness. And she's saying, oh, and we're talking about the different numbers of species, of extraterrestrial species, not to mention multidimensional beings, right? And so she's saying 42 plus is like 42 names that we as humans can memorize. Even that's difficult. It's like we're the queen bee trying to memorize all baby names all at once, which obviously she don't. But she can sense them by their hormones, their frequency, right? Their vibration. Yes. Just like we can acknowledge other humans just by standing there because of our frequency, because of our vibration. But we don't even know if they are our family members. The only thing that reincarnates, and this is from Days of Future Past 2026 over on YouTube. I'm talking about her mythology, like what she believes in. And the only thing that reincarnates is consciousness. Without consciousness, we are nothing. I have seen like 2 UAPs in life, and it was a very thrilling experience, but I have never seen their physical bodies. Yeah. Yeah. And to me, consciousness is soul, right? Like it's just like, and this is how it is all over the world, in every sub segment of civilization. Like we mean the same thing, but our language is just slightly different. And I love that, because then we can have these conversations and be like, yeah, we're on the same page or a slightly different page. It doesn't matter. Like, even if we believe 2 completely different things, that doesn't negate either one, that doesn't diminish either one at all. I'm really, really enjoying this conversation with you, Days of Future Past 2046. So thank you for being here and just giving me your experiences. The experiences that I have with extraterrestrials are mental. They're not real physical. Is that true? Not like I'm touching them or I'm being touched, but I have been touched before when it comes to that, just like on the arm, on the foot, like whatever. Nothing crazy. Thank God, but because you hear about accounts like that and it's just wild. But yeah. Okay. Back over to TikTok. Let's see. I'm really loving this conversation, guys. Okay, New Vista said, my favorite TikTok show is on. Thank you, New Vista. I always love spending time with you as well. Okay, so let's get your feedback, New Vista. So we're talking about multidimensional. We're talking about extraterrestrial beings. We're talking about consciousness, about soul. New Vista, where are you when it comes to your belief, what you accept when it comes to extraterrestrials and extra-dimensional beings, okay? And we were even talking about like the fact, and we were talking about soul origin. So like when your soul is created, it is created with a soul matrix that is very specific and unique. And depending on the frequency of that, how that soul matrix is set up, that predicates where you will incarnate in the universe, in the multiverse, like whatever, okay? So we were talking about soul origin, as in where you incarnate initially speaks a lot to who you are, what your purpose is, what your mission is, what your proclivities are, and who you are as a person. How do you feel about that, New Vista? And do you know what your soul origin is, or have an idea? Whenever I'm doing Akashic Records readings and soul realignment readings, it's like I tell people, I'm like, this is the soul origin that is most important for you to understand, because we're so much more complex and nuanced than like, oh, this is where, you know what I mean? Like, here's this one answer and this is it, because it's not just our soul and that's it. Our soul is connected to our oversoul, and above that and above that. It branches like a tree, like everything in nature that grows forward. That thing that grows doesn't just come from nowhere, right? It's like it's an extension of something else, right? So we have to think about that when it comes to how our soul is connected in as well. Okay, Days of Future Past. But you want to know something that is really scary. If aliens were to show up, they would show up to the disabled, like if aliens were to show up, they would show up to the disabled, like people with schizophrenia, dementia, etc. And the reason is they know that these kinds of people are the closest to a genius, but cannot go there and tell the truth because no one will believe them if they do show up to a real genius. This is very, very interesting. So I want to ask you, when it comes to all the information that's coming out from our government around, disclosure, contact, do you believe that that is real and accurate? And when you hear about extraterrestrial beings being in communication with people like you and me, and then those people telling their story, writing books, etc., do you feel that that is legitimate? And when you say, if aliens were to show up, right? But in some understandings, they already have shown up. But do you mean on a mass scale? In what way? Like, what is the context there? Okay, Pacific Tree Frog said, oh Lord. The one I was talking to, what I was talking about was greenish looking, scaly, and had horns, not horns, had horns, not horns. I looked up the species of it once and found it. I couldn't remember what it's called. That happened in 2021. Mine are both physical and verbal. Depends on the species because sometimes it's mental. Pacific Tree Frog, I did not know that you had so many instances of communication with extraterrestrials. Like I said, we just haven't gotten there yet in our conversations. I guess we just haven't gotten there yet. Like with what we talk about, but absolutely. That is so interesting. Yeah. New Vista says, I'm curious to hear your husband's point of view about these concepts. Do y'all record convos? When it comes to my husband's point of view about these concepts, no, we don't record our conversations. No. And usually it's like we're cooking dinner, we're talking about random stuff. And it's so commonplace now for me and my husband to experience these kinds of things together. And that it's, it'll be nighttime. There will be a presence. I'll be downloading. I'll be getting information. There will be contact. And my husband will just kind of be like, what's going on over there? Like, he's like, and like, I can feel him getting restless as the things are happening to me and I'm relaying very still. It's not like I'm like rolling around going all over the place. I can feel him start to get restless. And then sometimes even my son will start to get restless in the room down the hall. And my husband will just be like, what's going on? Like, what? Everything okay over there? Like, you good? You good? Because it's very commonplace. This has been happening for almost 7 years now, and these different things. Okay, Nuvis says, I believe it's real, just hadn't looked into extraterrestrial things because it wasn't a focus. Oh, of course, yeah. As far as the soul, that's what I'm on discovery to learn more about. I've been on twin flames. So you've been studying like what the twin flame phenomenon is. Is the twin flame phenomenon something that you are experiencing or having that is personal to you? Pacific Tree Frog says, I'm very experienced and educated in many things. LOL. You are. I mean, we've been through a lot. And I think that the more that you're open to, the more that you're able to just soak in information. And like, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, it was like, for me, and this is part of my human design as well. If you're familiar with human design, it's an energy system that explains how you process and move energy and information through the different systems in your body, right? For me, I'm just very open mentally when it comes to, if I don't know it to be true, I'm open to the possibilities. I'm not going to sit here and be like, this is the only way you could do something, or this is the only experience, or this is how it has to show up, or that's completely impossible. Those are things that would never cross my lips. And I've always been like that. At least for a very long time, since I've certainly awoken, and then also just deconditioned from like, society and like how we look at things. Because it's just like, and not everybody's like that. There are so many people I have to block off of YouTube because of the things that they come in with in the comments that are just very like, this is what it is, this is who it is, you're going to hell, like all these different things, because that is their paradigm, that's their understanding. And when you take that lid off, then you get to be the one that filters the information coming through instead of this box that was created for you. It's like when I hear something, I get to run it through my intuition, my psychic knowingness. I get to run it through my body, of course, which is one of the most important instruments we have for truth telling for us. And then just understanding that, like, my reality, the reality that I live in and the reality that you live in might have two completely different rules. What is true for me does not have to be true for you. And like when you really get that, you stop needing other people's reality to reflect your reality. And then you can really, and that, because it takes so much energy, right? Then you can really let go and really just lean into what you're experiencing and discover what's there to discover. Over on YouTube, Days of the Future Past says they know it's too risky since a genius without those kind of problems are more credible. And then they are just going to show up to the whole world all at once, but they're going to make a statement just like they are doing it now, sending these explorer drones to Earth like we're here, but you don't know how. Interesting. So from your perspective, you don't think that any of like what's coming out of DC around well, I don't even know if it's really coming out of DC, but all like some of the reports and studies and findings that are coming out of DC, you don't believe that those are accurate. You think that they might be falsified. I kind of had that vision in 2020 as well, that when it's really time for disclosure day, it's not going to come through our government, because any government of the world, because they know, especially with the advent of AI, they understand that it's not going to be believed. And because of the cognizant dissonance that's happening and the apathy that is growing on the planet, people are just going to be like, nope, that's not real. That's not real. I can't trust them, because we're seeing it, right? We see it all the time. Even now, as our government's coming out with all these different findings and these different videos, and there's aliens in the ocean, and like there's like all of these things, and people are just like, and I love reading the comments, and people are like, but do I still have to pay my mortgage? Do I still have to pay my rent? Okay, like I don't care. That's where we are right now. So I had a vision in 2020 that's very similar to what you're saying, where it's like, it's going to be something that is what's it called? Undeniable. It's like experiences that people are having, something that people are seeing, something that is so far beyond our technology that the technology that we have could not explain what is going on, if that makes sense. And I hope that it's soon, honey. I really do. I was talking to my husband about that. I was like, I don't even know if I can say that on TikTok. Never mind. Never mind. I'll stop there because I'm not trying to get my account closed down. Okay. New Vista said that journey has been okay, let me see what he's talking about. Okay. Twin flame. So New Vista is talking about twin flames, and he's saying that journey has been eye-opening, and it's had me look into being a soul and observer. Oh yeah, I met mine and have been having an array of experience on the twin flame journey. When did you meet your twin flame? Well, it was revealed that that's what I was experiencing literally a year ago. That's when I moved from Nap. Oh yeah, I forgot we're from the same city. I forgot that. Oh my God, I love it. Oh yeah, because you're off of Michigan. Oh my God, crazy. I love it. Love it. Okay, so that's when you moved. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. And are you with that person in like a romantic relationship now? I know twin flame doesn't always have to be romantic, I don't think. Pacific tree frog. I'm very educated and experienced in many things. Yes, girl. Say that. Pacific tree frog said that's the point. What's true for me may not be true for you, and why I see individual timelines. Other governments have already acknowledged alien existence, though. Which governments? I'm like so interested. I don't know. I don't know. I'm interested. Like super interested. I mean, and when I say Canada, really? I'm about to look that up. Yeah, I mean, our government has acknowledged alien existence at this point. Big time. I want to know when Canada did that as well. It was interesting because one of my posts about the United States as an egregore, and what that means, right? Like what it means to be an egregore, an energetic entity that basically has its own thing. And one of the comments that I received in there was talking about how, like, yeah, I moved from the United States to Australia because I thought I was going to escape that energy. And, I'm fighting that it's following me here. And I'm like, no shade, no tea, but like the same energy that created Australia is the same energy that created the United States, is the same energy that created like Britain and England, right? Like Australia is just like a cousin or a sibling to the United States, which is the child of like England, right? So it's just like, even when understanding like the broader version of, I don't know why I got on this topic. Oh, Canada. And Canada's right there with them. Like that's the cousin. So it's just like, it's so interesting, which is why I said that. Cause I'm like, I want to know when they said that, because when Canada acknowledged aliens, because like right around the same time, has it been a long time ago? Was it like, yeah, they've always been here? Has it always been part of the dialogue? Like, what is it? because I think it's a part of like a bigger plan, especially when we're dealing with these countries that are related in this kind of way. With even though on a geopolitical scale, it's like, yeah, they have interests that don't go together. There's all these things happening, but like the energetics of what these countries are is tied into the same vessel, if that makes sense. I don't even know if I can say that. Okay. Let's move on. I watched it week of because I'm chronologically online or chronically online. It was a conference that I think it was 2018 to 2020. I think I love how you say I'm chronically online. You're like, it's a problem. It's fine. All right, let me go back over to YouTube and Days of Future Past. Let's see. We look like, oh, okay. Let me read this part. Okay. They're just going, so we're talking about extraterrestrial disclosure, and they're going to show up to the whole world at once, but they are going to make a statement just like they're doing now, sending these Explorer drones to Earth like we are here, but you don't know how we look. And the government is full of nothing, but now they have no choice to disclose since 800 drones have been seen around the world. There have been a lot of drones being seen. And do you want to know who I think are the real mediums of dimensions in this world? The LGBTQ. And the reason is because they don't think like the average human, even in scientific studies, especially. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. I think it'll be really interesting to see like how all comes down, like for real. Because it's just, like I was saying, as long we just need to have open mind. And obviously we can't we can't make other people have open minds, but really just if we have an open mind, really continuing to feed and nourish that, not submitting to fear, anxiety, chaos, anything that shuts down the nervous system that's going to impair our ability to think clearly, to feel clearly, and to be in contact with those higher frequencies and the higher dimensions. Anything that we just need to protect ourselves at this point so that we can have a clear filter as information is coming in. I talk a lot about this on my channel and my posts because it's like taking care of your four bodies is the most important thing that you can do right now in this time, because only through that can you really trust what your experience coming in is. Because if you are not inoculated with low frequency energy, if you know how to clear your energy, to clean out your system, to remove attachments, if you know how to just take care of your body and your mind and your emotions and not get stuck in the patterns and cycles that keep you at a lower vibrational state. As long as you can take care of your body in that way, you can really lean in and trust yourself and what you're experiencing and know that it's not being influenced by 4D, by collective consciousness, or by collective thought forms that are intentionally pumped into collective consciousness. There's a lot going on, right? But the higher that you vibrate, the higher your frequency, the less susceptible you are to these different energies. Have you guys seen anything about these Faraday rooms or Faraday cages that they have? I've been looking at them and I really want to try one to see what that experience is. And so the Faraday room or cage is basically this EMF blocker, but it also, people experience like not just EMFs, but like thought forms, like their mind gets very, very clear. Their body relaxes. They're not having like the random thoughts coming in. Like they feel very clear, very grounded. Let me know if you guys have experienced or even heard of the Faraday cage or Faraday rooms. Okay. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'm loving this conversation, loving the back and forth. Because at the end of the day, it's like, what can we do with all this information? It's just keep living our lives, keep taking care of ourselves, prepare, make sure that we're prepared for whatever we need to be prepared for. And that's where the self-trust comes in, because it's like, if you know you're taking care of yourself, you're living your life, you can trust that regardless of what comes up, whatever you need to face, you're going to be able to do so from a higher perspective when you're really plugged into the reality of who you are, higher dimensions, your highest self, etc. Days of Future Past says, specifically the queer community is beyond the regular human. Interesting. That is very interesting. I'm not super familiar with like what the difference is between and other aspects of that. Like, what is the differentiating factor of the queer? Listen, you have a very special light, but you're not there yet. You remind me of Margaret at Disclosure Day movie. I have never seen that. Um, I have never seen that movie. That's interesting. Do you feel like you're there and that you have all of the answers, especially at the beginning? Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. But where do you put yourself when it comes to that? Like that, you're not there yet. I'm so interested to hear. Okay, so okay, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. So Pacific Tree Frog, I would love to know as well. When you think about soul origin, and New Vista as well. I know you said that you were like looking into this a little bit more, but when you think about soul origin, do you know what your soul origin is, or where you originated from, or what you resonate with when it comes to that? Okay, so let's talk about why so many people are waking up right now. Because there's been such a huge uptick in the awakening and just people expanding on what they're acknowledging, what they're experiencing, what they're seeing. And it's so funny because so many people have been moving on this path for a long time or for a decade, whatever it is. But seeing the rest of the population kind of follow suit and move in as well, it do you guys feel like that points to the fact that, like, yes, this is the truth, this is what is happening, this is part of the awakening? Or do you feel like it's more gives you more question and more pause as to what the reality of this quote unquote awakening is and what it means? And my experience, and just on my like short time on this app and the connections that I've been able to have and the relationships that I've been able to build, it's so interesting as I'm watching people interact with my content because the dynamic in the conversation has changed so much. It's changed from talking about, angels and guides and maybe, talking about oracle cards to like this larger conversation around consciousness in general and that multidimensionality. It's like, okay, here's base camp one where we're talking about these things that are really tactile and easy to understand. And then as the years progress, it's like our conversation and where we're willing to go really starts to broaden and open up. And for me, my experience of the awakening is, and in general on a planetary level, is really frequency and vibration, what the earth feels like, and just witnessing different groups of people, and then also witnessing the generations that are coming after us and what their experience is, and how they emit their light and how they see things and how they interact with each other. Obviously there's always different layers and there's a spectrum to it, but in my niece and nephews, in the people in that generation, I just see a different kind of light, a different kind of energy. And then when it comes to like my kid and like my sister's kid, who are, young, they're like 4. It's like I see this different light and this different energy in them, as well as like their little friends and just the people that they interact with. It feels like a lot lighter. It feels like an energy, and obviously they're kids, right? So it's different, but they have a different look in their eye than previous generations. And obviously this is well documented when it comes to like indigo children and rainbow children and all of these things where it's like, you know what I mean? And that ties into the starseed conversation as well, as like these souls are incarnating for a specific reason at a specific frequency to do a certain job on the planet. And so with all of these different souls coming to the planet, with all of so the frequency of the planet is raising because the I don't want to say quality, but the kind of soul that is incarnating here from different places in the universe, right? For the specific purpose of what the earth needs at this time. And then the frequency of the planet is shifting because the planet Earth the frequency of the earth is shifting. And we know this based on the poles changing, based on the Schumann resonance, and how we're affected here by the solar flares, and like all of that. So it's like the planet itself is shifting, and the souls that are coming on are shifting. And so it's raising the frequency of the planet in general. And so I think that that has created this consciousness shift and this awakening that was going to happen regardless, right? Like it was happening, it's been meant to happen, and it's going to continue to happen just based on the secular nature of um, how cycles happen here on planet Earth because of the density, because the density of 3D, the density of this experience, and what planet Earth actually is. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this and like how you have seen it in your own life. A lot of us are third in our 30s or 40s. It's like, how have you seen shifts, not just with you, not just with the people that you know, but also collectively in humanity? Over to TikTok, Pacific Tree Frog said, because I asked her about her soul origin, she said, interesting. I didn't know they used them for that. I don't remember the name of where I'm from, but it's definitely not here. LMAO, Earth is so earthy. The people, not the Earth itself, are so dense and depressing and violent. It's wild. It really is. And it's interesting because it's like, there's like this juxtaposition, which is what I was talking about, where it's like these souls are coming in that are naturally high frequency, high vibrational, and they're meeting, not literally clashing, but that energy is colliding with the dense ass energy of humanity, and it's creating this ripple, just like any impact does, that's really changing our perspective. And I think honestly that has a lot to do with what we're experiencing as well, because I don't believe in coincidences. I truly believe that there is a pattern, there's a rhythm, there's a cycle, and then also there's a greater influence, even if it's just like greater than humanity, like greater than the general population of the earth understands. Maybe it's orchestrated from a higher group of people, a higher meaning something that we can't see, that is controlling or dictating what's going on the planet, which we know that we have these hierarchies within our planet. So then if we believe that there are extraterrestrials, it would make sense that that same thing would carry through, although in a different way, right? So it's like this collision is really impacting what our experience is. And it's just so interesting to watch. Pacific Tree Frog says it's the new generation of beings with this new set of spiritual gifts, or perhaps a specific gift. I love this. Speak more on that. What do you mean when you say a specific gift? What could that look like? Okay, let me get caught up on my chats. Okay. You guys, thank you so much for being here with me. My name is Amy Titus. For those of you who are just joining, I'm an intuitive and psychic development coach, and I help people to lean into their multidimensionality and to really embody that, and to really accept it and honor it as a very important piece of our experience that should not be turned away from and should be leaned into, so that you can have a fuller human experience, one with a higher and broader perspective, and just more in tune with who you are. When we cut off a part of ourselves that is fundamentally a pillar of who we are, we're not living a whole full life. And I know it sounds kind of harsh, but it's like if you were to decide one day that you were going to stop using your eyes or your ears, even though you were able to use them, you're cutting off a part of your experience that could really help you in understanding your path forward. And it's the exact same thing with your multidimensionality, with your intuitive and psychic gifts. These are a part of every single person. Everybody has access to them. They're a fundamental part of being human. And so when we lean in and we grow and develop these things, they help to elevate our experience. Pacific Tree Frog says, so I think spiritual gifts, or that, okay, so we're talking about the new generation of beings coming onto the planet have a new set of spiritual gifts, or perhaps a specific gift. And so then she goes on to say, so I think spiritual gifts, or that their presence and what they offer to society is the gift. I absolutely agree. The way they think, the way they, yes, I believe that 100%, the way they think. And they're here to bring a coherence between all the different factions of the world is what I think. Like it's almost like that tuning fork mechanism where it's like, okay, they're tuned to a higher frequency and then other beings around them, their frequency is so strong that other frequencies around them, other tuning rods around them start to come up to their level. Even if they don't go all the way there, they're still shifting the frequency enough to create change. I think a lot of this also, we were talking in the high frequency tea community, one of the members there and I were in the DMs together talking about 2020 and the impact of 2020 on us globally, and not just physically, but spiritually, like mentally, emotionally, frequency wise, right? I think that has a big part to do with what we're experiencing now. And when it comes to this shift that occurred, where these higher frequencies are more available or more prevalent on the planet, which kind of makes sense because a lot of the kids that are coming in right now, they came right before 2020 or they came after 2020. When you think, and I'm talking about like the younger kids that are on the planet right now, like that are really just, I'm talking about like born and like up to 5, 6, 7 years old. And so I think that was a major contributing factor to what we're talking about here. Pacific Tree Frog goes on to say the way they think, the way they understand life. Yeah, it is really interesting. And also, you have to remember that this generation of kids is coming into parents that are completely different. I was having this conversation with my mom and we were talking about parenting and we were just talking about things like that, my experience, her experience. And I'm like, Cedar, my child, is basically a different species than my mom. Like when you really think about like what he's exposed to, the energy around him, the food that he eats, the air that he breathes, and just the nurturing that he gets, right? The interaction that he is exposed to is so completely different than what my mom experienced at that same age. Like, can you believe? Like, think about that. Like, especially me, the little bit that you know about me, like who I am as a person, and then like what Cedar is experiencing versus like what my mom experienced, who was born in the South to strict parents, like love them, but you know, it was just it was a completely different time, right? A different, completely different fears, completely different anxieties, like everything. Like, so what is created from these two completely different environments and experiences has to be completely different. So it's like we have this new, basically a new species. I mean, from me and my mom, the differences are crazy, right? But when you take it a generation further, it's just so wild. And then if you went back from me to like my grandparents, like, well, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially with that technology as well. I was reading this really interesting thing that was talking about the Mayan calendar, and it was basically talking about how time, obviously, as a spiral, is moving into a tighter and tighter spiral, meaning that the difference in experience between like now and like say 100 or 200 years ago is so astronomical that we don't even really know the impact at this point, because it's like back 200 years ago, we'll say, how it took so much longer for change to occur, for information to spread, for paradigms to shift. It took, 100 years. What used to take 100 years to shift now shifts in like a month or less here. So it's like this time is changing at such an astronomical rate that, like, again, different species because of everything that we experience. Hi, JC. How are you? Oh, it's so good to see you. How's your week been? The JC says, love the energy of new babies. Yes, Cedar is such a cute name. Thank you. He was born in a place called Cedar City that is close to here, but we knew that we weren't going to live there for very long. And so one day my husband and I were just joking, like, what are we going to name this child? And I was like, let's just name him Cedar. And we were like laughing, like, haha, that'd be dumb. And then we're like, wait, wait, no, that's actually a good name. And then like Cedar has a lot of connection with my family. The name Cedar, like my parents' first place that they lived was on Cedar Street. My grandfather was a minister, a pastor, and the church that he had for a really, really long time was also something to do with cedar. So like we're like, okay, this actually, like, the more that we dug into it, we're like, okay, maybe this is actually like really supposed to be a thing. The JC says, I'm 29, we are the bridge. Yes, exactly. There's just so yeah, back to that, like the differences of experience are so huge. And these kids coming onto the planet now, and like I think it's like a progression, right? It's like every generation has changed for different reasons because again, it's a cycle. There is a pattern to it. There's like a cyclical nature. And so we're all shifting and changing, evolution. But I think that there was a huge impact here. Okay, let's see. Yes, a Pacific tree frog said, and two, for the first time in our recent human history, children are being born without trauma. Yeah. What do you mean by that? Go into that a little bit more deeply if you don't mind. But that energy of allowing a safe space is incredibly powerful and spreading to other families. It is. It really is. JC says Pacific tree frog, um, arrow, 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 dart, dart, dart. It is, and I think it's because, like, intentionally, our generation is trying our hardest not to traumatize our kids. And so that creates different brain waves, which affect our hormones, which affect the chemicals in our bodies. Like, when I'm talking about the kids, like, it affects your hormones, how your hormones develop. It affects your neural pathways. It affects your physical body, where you're carrying energy and stagnancy in your body. And that absolutely shifts how you express as a human being moving forward. And when we think about epigenetics and we think about the ability to, like, our DNA to turn on and off things, right? It is like when the ability to, what am I trying to say here? When you, when stress hormones and other factors like that come together and affect your experience physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, when those levers are not pulled, the thing that results is different. Okay. And it's like, it's just a different kind of species on the planet. And obviously I don't mean like literally species. I'm using that in a um I'm using that in a not what am I trying to say? I'm not using the word species in a literal way. Okay, but that energy of allowing a safe place is incredibly powerful in spreading to other families. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, guys, do you have any questions for me? What do you guys want to talk about? What is on your mind? How is your intuitive, psychic, multidimensional journey going? What experiences have you been having lately? How have you been expanding? How have you been growing? How have you been learning? What's been going on out there? JC, how has your week been? Dr. S, hi. Hi, Dr. S. How are you? Good to see you. How has your week been? How is everything going? Pacific Tree Frog says, I mean, being born to parents living in threat of violence and trauma, parents who have worked on healing. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it creates a completely different environment. I mean, you get what I'm saying when it comes to like my grandparents and I might as well be different species, having different experiences. So good to see you too. The Solar Age. Hi, Solar Age. How are you? We're having a wonderful conversation. I almost like, should we? Hey, girl. Okay, let me. All right. So today we're talking about a lot of different things, just like we always do. We always have a nice flow of different things that we're talking about. But so far, we've been talking about soul origins, star seeds, how the evolution of humanity is just moving and changing, and what that looks like when it comes to the generations that are coming on board now, and how they're affected by the different frequencies that are on the planet. And Yeah, it's been like such an amazing conversation so far. I really appreciate you guys spending time with me. Let's go and talk about, oh, we were talking about the awakening that's happening on the planet and what forces have come together to make that so, and why we feel like so many people are awakening on the planet right now. So we talked about planetary forces, we talked about universal forces, we talked about different star seeds coming in and raising the planet, the vibration of the planet on itself. We talked about actually the planet Earth changing its frequency because of it going through its own lifespan and its own cycles and shifts. Um, yeah, so stories, that's what we've been talking about. And then we landed on talking about families and like, which I love that we landed there because it's like that's how we're operating as we're having children or as we're around children, making sure that we're creating an environment for them where they're not traumatized in the same way that we were, or our parents were, or our grandparents were. Because without that stressor, without those stress hormones, without that nervous system dysregulation, they get to express as a completely different being than what other people have had to. Um, Okay, Dr. S says, I've been toying with the idea that when I'm thinking of someone fondly, they're also thinking of me. Oh, very interesting. Like when they come into your mind, I believe that this is real. And one of the causes for this can absolutely be energetic cords, right? Like we have energetic cords to a lot of people. And so when we're thinking of somebody intentionally, and you tell me what you're meaning with this. Do you mean that you're just bebopping around your day and then all of a sudden somebody comes in your mind and then they don't leave? Like the thoughts just keep coming? Or they kind of come into your mind and then you intentionally think warm thoughts about them? You let me know. So JC says, this week has been eye opening. Old things have been coming up and I've been facing them head on. I love that. And you know, we had the full moon in Capricorn as well. And I don't know, do you have any Capricorn placements? I feel like you do, don't you, the JC? I feel like we talked about that a long time ago on a live. Um, I feel like we talked about that, but it's I know I've been experiencing the same. I've had a lot of energy just coming up, especially, I mean, honestly, it's been a while now, hasn't it? The solar age. I feel like every day we're like, it's a the energy is intense. I just think that's part of it. I think a lot of times too, when we're going through periods where a lot of us feel like the energy is intense, it's just because we're acclimating to it. Things are shifting and changing. And then soon we will be used to the shift in energy. And so it won't feel so intense. Although the energy, is actually the same. It's not that the energy like pumps up and then like leaves or like goes down. Sometimes that happens depending on what's going on planetarily. But I think a lot of times when it comes to just how the planet is moving and shifting and consciousness is moving and the collective energy is moving, it's just something that we have to get accustomed to, kind of like ascension symptoms. Dr. S says, when they come in my mind and then they stay there. Yeah, a lot of times that really does have to do with the cords that we have with people. And cords are not always a bad thing. Sometimes they're good as long as they're not causing negative effects in your life, right? Now, if we're like thinking about somebody and obsessing about them and it was actually causing negativity to you, then that's something. But a lot of times it's just like, oh, I love that person. And like you're thinking about memories and you're wondering how they are and you feel that connection, like that familiar connection. That actually has been happening to me a lot this week with one particular person. And it doesn't feel like obsession or anything. It's just like, oh, okay. Like, and I wonder as well, like you said, are they thinking about me too? And the answer usually is yes. Even if you're just flashing in and out of their mind because of that energetic cord. The solar age said, I'm finally starting to feel relief. Yes. The more guides that come through, the better for me. I love that. I'm so glad because when we first met, you were like really going through it. Not to like air your laundry, but I'm not going to say anything specific because we all go through a lot. And I'm just so glad that you are feeling better and that things are like, because you deserve that. You're such a beautiful, bright light. And we all go through it, girl. Remember I told you I went to the crystal shop? The lady that owns the crystal shop on Tuesday, my son and I went there and I met her multiple times. And when I went in there and she started talking, she's like, are you okay? Like your energy feels really heavy, even though usually you're like so bright and bubbly and like your energy is just really like effervescent. And I'm like, yeah, girl, I'm tired. Like there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. So like we like yes, we all feel like that. So just to say all that, like, it's so normal. And it's like, I'm just really glad that you're starting to feel better because it's super important. The JC said 2 aspects of Capricorn in my 5th house. Okay, cool. What are the aspects? Do you know? Solar Age says, yes. I feel like I got wrung out like an old dish rag the past few months. Same, girl. Same. It's like a lots of growth, lots of momentum, but then like also lots of feeling super tired, super, and that makes sense in the growth period. Like, how when people grow, like they're still growing, they'll go through periods where they like have to sleep more. We think about like teenagers and stuff where they have to sleep more and their body has to rest more and they have to like integrate more. I feel like that is really what we're going through. I've been thinking like I need a vacation, like a real vacation. And like what that would look like. Okay, so how does that affect? I want to go back to Dr. S because she said when they come to mind and then they stay there. What is your experience, Dr. S? Is it like happy feelings? Is it like, oh, that's so nice? Or do you feel like you're ruminating? What exactly is the situation with that? Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. I know I just said that, but I just also want to say thank you to everybody on Instagram. Thank you to everybody on YouTube. I appreciate you spending time with me and your comments. Let me know if there's anything that you guys want to know also in the chat. And yeah, let's keep going. I'm going to be here for at least probably about 20 more minutes. Let me know if there's anything specifically that you guys want to talk about. And we'll just keep it going. JK, just Neptune and Capricorn. That's an interesting placement. Yeah. So that is still a major placement. Absolutely. Not 2, but I also just realized that I have a stellium in Scorpio and in Libra, which is wild. I'm like, huh, okay, interesting. Okay. Dr. S says ruminating and sometimes not positive. Is that a cord that needs cutting? I would say so. And like, again, energetic cords are so common. They are absolutely so common. They happen all the time for all different kinds of reasons. And so it's just something that you can go in and remove yourself. And you can like, look up on Instagram, look up on TikTok, YouTube, like how to remove a cord and just really integrate that with your own practice and like the fundamental belief set that you have on how to do so. You don't have to like pay anybody to do that for you. But if you do it a couple times, you're like, okay, this is still not removing, then you might want to, get somebody else to help you, but you 100% have the ability to do so with your intention and your belief. Yeah. And again, it's like I do like literally I'm in a phase where I remove cords from myself every single day. I have this spiritual practice in the morning where I'm sitting and I have this whole thing that I do. And then at the end, I just remove any cords or any debris in my aura. Like I want my day to be mine. I want to be in my energy as much as I can and nobody else's. And so as I'm like moving this stuff, it just helps to ensure that I'm grounded in my own ass energy. So yeah, and sometimes I know who the cords are from. Sometimes they're collective cords going into collective consciousness, like 4D. Sometimes I don't know who they are from. Sometimes I do. So it's actually really interesting when you start to really build that skill because it's just like a muscle. It's just like everything else. Like it's energy healing. So it's like when you start getting into it and doing it, it's interesting the other information that comes up. Like for me, sometimes when I tune in, I'm like, okay, this is from this person at this time. This is why. I obviously know what energy center it's connected to. And so it gives me more context around like why this is here and who it's from. And I'm like, yeah, that did affect me. Or like, yeah, after that conversation, I did start to just relate to that person in a different way or think about them more. And it could be like the weirdest things, right? It could be a celebrity. It could like literally like something you heard on social media that just stuck with you. And, so again, these things in and of themselves are not detrimental to our experience. It's just we want to clear out the energy that's not ours, that we don't choose intentionally for ourselves. Like if I go in with Jaleesa, I'm sorry, the solar agent, we're having an amazing conversation, we're activating, and then I have a chord with her. I'm like, okay, like that's okay. Like we just had an exchange and activation, like that's normal, right? And a lot of times cords will fall away by themselves. You don't have, not every time that you create a cord, it's there for life. Like cords will fall away naturally by themselves, but sometimes they stick. Sometimes they stick for different reasons, right? If that cord is activating a part of you when it comes to like your self-worth, your self-esteem, enmeshment that you might have with that person, an understanding about yourself, it can just kind of hook in there, right? And all of this is so natural and so normal. Again, this is all just a part of our spiritual hygiene and our spiritual protection. So let me know, Dr. S, if that makes sense when it comes to like you, what you're experiencing. And if you feel confident and comfortable, just like trying to disconnect it yourself, just with your intention, with your hand, tune in, ask like, where is this connected? And then just zoom in and just do a little zoop, 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 and try to get it out of there. Okay, the Solar Age said, excuse me, do you know much about the houses of astrology? I'm trying to understand all of this air in my chart. Have a lot of 11th house placements and Aquarius placements. When I know a little bit, but I am in no way, shape, or form a professional on that. Or super well versed. I know I've learned a lot of it through mine and like through specific clients that I have when we will go into astrology a little bit. But like with the 11th, the 11th is the way that I understand the 11th, and this could be completely wrong, so I barely even want to say this, but the way I understand my 11th, which is Scorpio, is really about social media. It's about communication. It's about other things like that. I need to do so. See, I think, don't hold me on that. The JC says, I tried to remove cords before. It didn't work. I just tried to ignore them. When you feel like you wanted to remove the cords, were they with a specific person, or was it just a cord that you felt that was kind of like draining you? And how long ago was it that you tried to remove them? I'd be so interested to know, because as our understanding and connection with our multidimensionality expands, our inherent ability to do these kinds of things expands as well, because it's like an understanding that's blooming inside of you of what your power is, of where your authority is, of what your abilities are. And so like the more that you understand and learn and grow, the more effective you become. Because again, it's like these different doorways and pathways are being opened in your mind. And everything boils down to our belief and our knowingness, right? Like, what do you believe is possible? What do you know to be true? Okay, the Jaleesa. The Solar Age says, oh, we have a cord. No, I don't think so. But I'm just saying, well, we might have, like the conversation that we were having yesterday could absolutely have facilitated a cord. But again, healthy cords naturally fall away on their own at their own time. So we probably don't have one anymore. But when we're in that communication, absolutely. Whenever I'm in session with someone as well, whenever I'm having a client session, lots of different cords form, right? And then, but generally a couple of minutes after the session, I will go outside and decord myself and them, or they'll naturally just fall away. Because again, autonomy is really important. We want to be in our own energy as we're moving around this human experience. So our own signal isn't clouded by the energy of others that we have picked up and are carrying. Like we just don't, it's not the best for us. Delisa says, I'm okay with that. The Solar Age, sorry. I've tried to remove many cords from people from my childhood, and yet they still come in my dream state. Yuck. Okay. Yeah. Do you feel like that's something that you practice a lot, removing cords, like how I do every single day, or whenever you're sitting down for practice, like just doing a little thing? Because that kind of practice and repetition really solidifies your ability to do so. And I was thinking about this the other day, because like we were talking about in the monthly tea date, like your belief is everything when it comes to what you're able to do. You cannot do in the field, you can't do what there is not a belief inside of you that says you can do it, even if it's a subconscious belief. But that belief has to be there in order for it to be projected in reality. So it's like how we build the belief that we're able to manipulate energy. One of the best ways, and this is why this is one of those like entry doors, is energy healing. When you start learning energy healing, whether that be Reiki, hands of light, whatever it might be, And you start to see the effectiveness of that in yourself and other people, that builds the belief that you can manipulate energetic field and reality. And so again, it's like we have to build these things so that we can see them and experience them. And like even going into a session with someone like me, where it's like I'm moving your energy, you're feeling it move, you're feeling it change, you're feeling things shift. After the session, things start moving for you in your life. You're getting momentum in ways that you weren't. And then your brain can say, oh, I can see the correlation between the work that I did with Amy or whoever and what shifted for me, what shifted in my body, physical sensation, mental, emotional release, whatever it was. And then my life started to shift as well. So it's like making these associations in the human brain are so important to be able to unlock our ability to affect the multidimensional intentionally. Let me know if that makes sense. Let me know. Yeah, so the JC, I would oh, you said last year, twas twas a romantic relationship, so a heart chord. It may have backfired. Did you put the cord there on purpose? Ooh, I'm so interested because some people do that, like some people want to facilitate that and do that. So I'm so interested if it was intentional. Be Free Flies. Hi, honey. How are you? I love that the girlies are here. It makes me so happy. Yay. Hangout. Thursday hangout. Hi. Been living the cord cut. Oh, been living the cord cutting loving the cord cutting in our session. Doing it every day has been changing. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Oh, I'm so happy. And it's like, so Be Free Flies, you can attest to this. It's like you have the ability in there. It's just like someone showing you how to do it in real time. And then you take that with you. And then I'm sure that you've like changed a little bit of things, tweaked a couple of things, like with your own experience, and made it more impactful and powerful for you because of your own individual tweaks. But it's like, okay, this is what you can do. This is what it feels like in session. And this is how, like, then you take it and you make it your own. And it's so much more powerful after you make it your own. Dr. S says, don't cords need to last if you're in relationship with them? Ego's partner in one partner. So this is how I feel about energetic cords. You be in a relationship with someone, you don't need a cord, right? But when you're in relationship with someone romantically, or like mother-child, father-child, like that kind of, or a friend, right? Cords can be there and they can be fine, but there's an expiration date, not a literal one, but like we'll say an expiration date, like a lifespan. And so once that lifespan has expired, if that cord is still functioning and still drawing, and the expiration date is really based on your relationship with that person. A cord can form, and that cord is supporting both of you, and it's moving energy back and forth. You're connected, obviously. But then if something changes with the dynamic of the relationship, or just your own dynamic where that cord is no longer appropriate, generally it will fall off. But at the same time, we don't want to have a bunch of different cords with a bunch of different people all over the place. And so if cords are sticking around longer than they're supposed to, like I go to the gas station, me and the guy have like, a nice conversation. There's a cord that forms. As soon as I leave, it should be falling off, right? But if I find that that's sticking, that's when we go and do some excavation of our own, because that cord is no longer there for that serving the purpose of our relationship, of that dynamic. It might be serving something else. Maybe it's serving, quote unquote, a younger version of myself, validation that I need, something like that. Does that make sense? Let me know. I know I kind of butchered that, but let me know if that makes sense to you. And then back to what I was saying, it's like the cords that I have with my son are very important for his development and for my bonding. They're very important. Same with my husband or my best friend. I gotta let knows how many cords I have with my best friend. Dear God, I can only imagine. And also there's lots of different places where we can have cords, right? Through all of our chakra system, all of our energy centers. So there's a lot of different ways that people can be connected. I might be connected to you at my solar plexus, and then that one falls away, and later we're connected at the root or the heart, right? So there's a lot of different variations, but It's important for us to remove the ones that aren't serving us because the relationship no longer dictates that there is a cord there in that way. Let me know if that makes sense. Be Free Fly says, very true. I can see the shift. And then JC says, no, it was already there. Okay. Gotcha. She's like, no, I did not do this on purpose. I need to practice cutting every day. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just like normal spiritual hygiene. Just like, we do whatever we do personally in our practice. And you can do it whenever you feel something there. Something that I'm really experimenting with right now in my own practice is that throughout all of these years, I've really ritualized a lot of my practice, right? Like I do my cord cutting when I do this, and this is how I do this, and this is when I connect here. And so I'm starting to kind of push those boundaries, and I'm a Capricorn. Okay. So it's like, I'm trying to push those boundaries a little bit where it's like, what if I just did a cord cut in the middle of a grocery store? Like, you know what I mean? What if I just started, channeling my highest self while I was doing the dishes, or like, I don't have to be sitting in my little space. And I'm like very ritual oriented, very like, I do the same thing every day. It's very much a part of my human design, my astrology, that's just how I am. I was like, what would it be like to kind of just allow myself a little bit more wiggle room when I'm in these experiences, right? Like when I'm doing these multidimensional things. Let me know how you guys experience this. Do you have like kind of a set way that you get into your spiritual practice, that you do these different things, that you connect, or is it just a little bit more free flowing? Now, of course, for me, like I will get downloads and channels when I'm just doing my thing. But when it comes to how I organize myself around it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to light my candles. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that, and like that. Let me know how this is for you guys. Be Free Fly says, literally after a session, I got the notice showing zero balance on my student loans. Oh my gosh, I saw that email. I forgot to email you back because I was in the car and driving. I was like, let me get back to this. And I never did. But congratulations, girl. That is amazing. So amazing. And such a sign of a timeline shift, an identity shift. Like the version of you that you are now doesn't have to worry about these things. And that is so, so amazing. I knew it was going to be forgiven, but literally after the energy work, right? Because we talked about that. Literally after the energy work, I saw it in real time. That's amazing. And like I swear, sometimes we're just so connected to the outcome of things, and all the time we are. But it's like sometimes you just need to clear or maneuver the energy just a little bit, like the tiniest bit, in order to see massive shifts in what's going on, like things coming through. It's almost like sometimes things are just not stuck, but it's like they just need a little bit of movement to like come to their fruition. I'm loving this conversation, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm thinking about wrapping up soon. So let me know if you have any additional comments, any additional questions, anything that is coming up for you. Dr. S says, that makes sense. Thanks. Yeah. Anytime, boo. Yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know what you guys are doing for this weekend. I know that we're taking tomorrow off to have a nice long weekend. We're going to go kayaking up in the mountains, and I'm super excited. My son, I don't think we've taken my son kayaking like this. And we were like, do you want to ride with mommy or daddy? I'm like, never mind, you're riding with your dad. I'm like, that sounds like a lot. I'm like, no, like we're all going to have life jackets, obviously. But, he just listens to his dad a little bit more. Like it's just a little bit more that he listens to his dad than he does to me, which I think is pretty normal. But yeah. The Solar 8 says, I'm resting this year. I see fireworks every year. Girl, so out here, I don't know if Pacific Tree Frog is still on, but out here, we live in the same town. They literally started doing fireworks last night. It's Wednesday night. 4th of July is on Saturday. They started doing a little bit last night, and it's like every day that just like ramps up until they're doing them for hours at a time. It literally sounds like a literal war zone, like bombs just like go. It's actually really just super annoying, actually. And I love fireworks, but I'm like, I'm not trying to hear fireworks from 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. for the 4th of July. It's like real wild, like real wild. Pacific Tree Frog. Oh, there she is. I was just talking about how they do fireworks here and how it's like literally insane. And literally, they started fireworks last night on Wednesday, and they do so many. And then on 4th of July, it's like they're going from 10 to like 1:30 p.m. Is it like that over where you are? We're not that far away. I feel like we're about 10 minutes away. And the Pacific Tree Frog said, I just had to water the concrete for the new pool and couldn't comment for a while. Yeah, I'll be over. Let me know when it's done. Let me know when that pool's done, girl. The Solar Age said, yes, our SeaWorld started doing fireworks and their drone show already. Yeah, I know. I hate to be like that. Like, I'm not trying to be the Grinch the 4th of July, but also like I need my sleep. And it's just too much. It's just too much. Like, I feel like they should mandatorily have to stop at like 11 or something. Be Free Fly says, I'm resting this year. That sounds so nice. Yeah, we're going to go early in the morning, and then I think we'll probably just like hang out afterwards, maybe like barbecue something. I kind of want to like visit with friends and some friends, but I'm also kind of like, I don't. I've just been a homebody recently, just resting a lot. I have not been very social in the last couple of weeks, but that's okay. You know, it's, you know, sometimes it's like that. Pacific Tree Frog says, yeah, they do fireworks after high school football games. No joke. Oh, they do that. At the last place I lived, it was kind of close to a high school, and I do remember that. Yep. So funny. Okay, guys. Well, if nobody else has any questions or anything else they want to talk about, I will absolutely see you guys probably on Sunday. I'm going to do another live on Sunday. Thank you for being here with me. My name is Amy Titus. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm an intuitive and psychic development coach, and I talk about things all things multidimensional, and I help people to grow their intuitive and psychic gifts. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend and a wonderful day. Sending you so much love, and we'll talk later. Bye, guys.